Hey, welcome to Taylor's Trick Taking Table. I am Jack O'Lantern. Please, Mr. O'Lantern's my dad. Call me Jack. Welcome. Happy Halloween. This is wild. It's the end of Zooktober. The end of the campaign of Zoo and More. Today is actually the final day. I think final hours when I upload this. So act now. There's definitely late pledges if you're watching this late. You can just check out the page, and I think there will be a path if you missed out. But go check it out. It's the very last few hours. This is wild. We actually got this was wild. This actually just happened. I'm filming this on the 30th. This was the Zoo and More project was in crowdsurfing of the Dice Tower, and both Mike and Chris picked it. Mike picked it as a pick of the week. Absolutely wild to see. So wonderful. Thank you so much, Mike and Chris. And they have the quotes of theirs on the Kickstarter page if you want to check that out. It means the world. I'm so excited. And what's interesting, we actually also won, if you can consider it winning, the Kickstarter projects we hate. I didn't think that was a thing. Kind of hurts. No, I'm kidding. But I'm so excited. This has been such a wonderful campaign. And thank you so much for checking it out or supporting it. There has just been such a loving outpouring of kindness from everyone. So thank you so much. I had a tier that was like, hey, if you bought Short Zoot Suit, send me a picture or proof or in any way. And I didn't really know what I was expecting, but it has been amazing. I've gotten such wonderful pictures from so many of you of just, holding the game or showing it off or like posing with it, which was so sweet, or like, it's very kind to have that back and forth. It's been absolutely wonderful. Hoping also some international options are coming to fruition. Still working on that. So excited for that. But today, we are in our New York apartment. That's right. We moved. Look at the set. It's much cleaner. No wildness. We'll have to try to make it more wild as we start moving in here. We actually have to get Claude back. Claude is still in Portland, so I have to fly back and go get him. But here we are. Celebrating the final day of Zooktober by covering Mason Sokols through the zoo. I just have it printed out here, but essentially the hook to this game is it's like a meta game. You are given a deck of cards. That's a standard deck of cards, and you're going to shuffle it. You're going to deal 13 cards. And you're going to play a hand of a standard deck game. So think hearts, spades, etc. And then after you're done with that, you get to discard those cards, or they'll probably be taken through tricks and stuff. They're going to be gone, and then you're going to draw 13 more cards from that same deck to play the next hand of whatever it is. We have Teen Len or Duroc or Hodgepodge Dodgeball, Fight the Landlord, Short Zoot Suit, Cucumber, Highland Whist, and it has just tons of standard deck games from amazing people. I mean, David Parlett, Shrish Bhatt, Sean Ross. This an uncredited classic, my favorite designer of all time, uncredited. It is a celebration of standard deck games because I should say, when you're drawing back up, you actually can mulligan some of your cards. So let's say you're playing a hearts hand and you draw up the Queen of Spades. You're like, do I keep it in my hand? Do I get it out? Or do I save it for later when we're playing spades, and that could be a trump, right? So it has this interesting hand planning element to it as you go through the zoo, as you go play through different standard deck games. It's such a celebration, such a love. Mason did such an amazing job. I can't wait for y'all to check it out. So we're gonna go to the table. I'm gonna show off how to play. And this, again, has just meant the world. So thank you so much if you checked out the Kickstarter in any way. You are the best. I'm so excited. And thank you so much to everyone who collaborated on this wild project. It's been quite the wonderful, surprising, goodly emotional in a great way month. So thank you so much for checking everything out and watching everything. It means a lot. So catch you at the table, and we'll teach you how to play Through the Zoo. The deck, or should I say decks, in Through the Zoo is one full deck per person. So you're going to get a standard deck, remove all the jokers, so it's just ace through king and 4 suits, and you're going to get a deck per player, and you're going to give that player the entire deck. Here we have the game set up for 4 players, so depending on the player count, you're going to choose what types of standard deck games and how many you're going to play. So at 4 players, you're going to choose 4. At 3, you're going to choose 3, but at 2 players, you're actually going to choose 4 again. And this can be at random. There's a whole stack of them, or you can choose what games you all know for maybe an easier or more informed situation. In this case, we're going to play hearts, spades, bid whist, and then finally short zoot suit. So you're going to splay them out so players know what hand is what. So like this will be the first hand, second hand, third hand, fourth hand. And let's look at one of these cards. The anatomy here is the designer is in the middle here. So hearts is uncredited. This says what player range can work for it. So 2, 3, or 4. There's also teams. So if I grab a team example here, I'll have a T on it. That will be for 4 players. And then also on the left has a helpful reminder of what the card play is. So it's must follow, no trump, ace is high. But as you can see, when it comes to spades, it's must follow, spades or trump, ace is high. So some notation there to help players remember maybe what kind of the card play is in the game. Also, it has something in the middle here if there's any peculiarities when you play hearts in this game. So it says it's a hold hand, meaning players won't pass any cards. And also, shooting the moon. So how shooting the moon works is you capture all the points in the current hand because, as you might have guessed, maybe you're playing hearts, but there could be 4 queens of spades in the hand, which is wild. So it's not capturing 26 points now, it's capturing all the points in the hand, which you'll know how many there are at the end of the hand. So how the game works is, once everyone knows what types of games we're playing, we are going to jump into the first hand, and how that works is players are going to shuffle their decks and then draw 13 cards each. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Now, all players simultaneously are going to look at their hand, and they're going to choose how many and which cards they're going to mulligan. So this player here, they don't want the king of spades for hearts because they think they're going to capture it. So they're just going to mulligan once. So they put it face down, they draw any number, they mulligan in the back of their hand, and then they are going to shuffle back in all their mulligan cards. So maybe this pin player up here decides to mulligan maybe 2 cards. Maybe they put those down, they'll draw 2 back up, and then they'll shuffle that back in. So once everyone has done their mulligan, and they have their hand of 13 cards, then you're ready to play. So the start player is just someone who last went to a zoo, and everyone's going to be able to be start player once. So then players would play the standard deck game. So in this example, it's hearts, so it's must follow. The player with the lead will play whatever they want. You do have to follow the similar rules where you can't lead hearts unless it's broken. There's no 2 of clubs rule in this first thing. It's just the player who has the lead, so they could, play that if they wanted to, and then it's must follow. So what's interesting about the game is players may have multiples of the card. So 7 of spades, but coming to the short zutsu player, looking at their hand, if they only have 1 spade and it happens to be the 7 of spades, they could be playing the same number. If the same number is going to win it, like in this example, because this player played the 4 spades, it's the later played one. So the short zutsu player would win this trick. So play continues, you'll finish out the hand. It's just like a hand of hearts, and then you're going to score, just like how hearts scores. So you're going to get a point per heart and 13 points per queen of spades. I say per because, there could be 4 queens of spades. And then similarly, if you get all the points in the captured hand, you'll shoot the moon. And then how it works is you're going to rank players depending on how well they did. And then they're going to get points based on that. So it's not like if you do super poorly, like maybe you get, 30, 40 points in hearts, you're messed over for the rest of the rounds. No, you just get match point scoring. So let's say the bear over here took 2 hearts, the cherry took 4, Boston took none, and then down here, this bird deck took 16. They would get 0 points. and then it would be 1, 2, 3. At the end of a hand, players will have captured all their cards, so it'll kind of look kind of like this. You'll just toss out those played cards. You'll move over to the next game. So now we're playing spades. Players will do the same thing. They'll draw 13, mulligan any they want. The start player will move, so it will be the cherry player, and then you're playing a game of spades. So you do the same thing. You'll bid. You will be on a partnership. So the pin player will be on a partnership with this bird player. And how teams work is the losing team will get 0 points and the winning team will get 3 points. So it would be 3, 3, and 0, 0 if the pin team won. After that, they play bid whist, and then after that, they play short zoot suit. And at the end, whoever has the most points wins. The last thing to explain are these variants here. So you can play in different zoos. As you can see, these different zoos are also in the universe of Zoo and More, like Bollywoods is short zoot suit, and Chaipur is Chai Tea Jazz, so that's a fun little Easter egg. But each of them has not only a different mulligan rule, so usually you can just mulligan up to 13 and then draw that back up, but different mulligan rules can come into play. Like this one says mulligan up to 3, but instead of drawing randomly, you can search your deck for specific cards. So that's a fun one. You can mulligan up to 5, mulligan up to 7, but those go underneath. They go to the top of your deck after drawing, sorry. And then the last one is, but the mulligan cards underneath never shuffle. And then on top of that, so players would score normally by winning a round or winning, as a team. But in this version, you can also win an entire kind of meta game. So at the very end, it says, here's a more concise one. If you captured most cards from the player to your right. So players are now keeping track of the cards that they capture from other players. Also over here, if you have captured the fewest diamonds, so you're going to look through all the cards that you captured over those 4 games, or whatever number it may be, depending on the player count, and you're going to make sure, oh, did I capture the fewest diamonds? So that adds a layer of wrinkles. Like if you go back to that hearts game, maybe in that hearts game, there's a diamond trick, and maybe you don't want to capture it because Johannesburg is this meta rule in the game. So a lot of interesting twists and tweaks with the meta rule. But that's how to play Through the Zoo. So that is Through the Zoo, and huge grain of salt, obviously. Mason is a pal, and they did such a good job. And this is also part of, a huge Kickstarter that we're running, and I helped develop the game, but so huge grain of salt. So also, I'll do more of like a developer diary, because part of Zoo and More and the inspiration of it all was this idea of like, whoa, what if you create a compendium of standard deck games, put them all together, and give players standard decks that they can play this amazing meta game. So part of the fun was finding what games would work with it and finding how to tweak them if they didn't quite work with it yet to make them work with it. So a big struggle is you couldn't have games with kitties, talons, like these are just cards cut. You couldn't have, like Haggis, for example, has cards cut. That is a big deal, part of the game. But you couldn't have that because the system is everyone has their own deck, and so you draw 13. So you had to have games where you pretty much deal everything out equally. Or games that had no trump, and you would flip a card from the deck, or there'd be extra cards remaining from the deck that you would, again, flip and see what trump is, like Euchre. Euchre's tough in this. So it was actually an interesting challenge. You couldn't just pick any standard deck games. Also, games where not every card is used. So like Vidrasso is a great game, but it only uses, 1 through 9. And so it couldn't work for the system because, what do you do with a king, queen, jack, and 10, Sometimes you could make it work. You'll just be like, oh yeah, those are in the game too now, and it now goes 1 to 10. The rules still apply. And that was an interesting puzzle to solve for most of them. But also an aspect of the development was how many could we fit in here logistically into the box. So the box itself of Zoo and More was 4 troughs or 4 kind of wells to where you put in cards. But if you make it a 5th one, it's not like a nice box anymore. It's like this like grown beast where if you had 5 wells, you have to have 1 in the middle or like 1 tilted, or like, what do you do for that? So what we're actually doing is each of the 4 games are in their own 4 wells, but then broken up into each of them are cards for Zoo and More. So when you get the game, it'll have some cards that make up Through the Zoo, Did I say zoo and more last time? I meant through the zoo. When you get zoo and more, it's going to have all the through the zoo cards mixed throughout, so you can combine them or move them around or whatever. But essentially, just to maintain a smaller box size and those 4 wells, we only had limited number of cards that we could include in this set. And in addition to that, like these blue ones that are different, the standard decks, we also have this kind of universe or kind of this giant zoo card, which changes not only the mulligan rule, or could, but also adds an additional way to score, because it's fun to, in a metagame, have also another meta rule. It's very, very, very meta. So Mason did such an amazing job on that. Mason came up with both the structure, the idea of the meta rule, the different mulligans, and they just knocked it out of the park. I was so inspired by all of this. There's something that is so clever and so exciting to have a plug and play system that works with standard deck. Like it's maybe I'm waxing poetic, but just the idea of having this system that you can reach into the past and have fun in a new way with designs that you've always known. So one of my favorite things to do is I'll show people who are used to standard deck games like this with hearts, spades, and sometimes bridge. I think sometimes that's a bit much, but usually like Fight the Landlord or something. Because having old school classic trick-taking games and then a hand of a climbing shedding game, definitely like an old classic climbing shedding game, like I can never say that, Teen Len or something like that, has such a fun twist. Players are always like, oh, this is an avoidance round. Do I get rid of all my high cards? Oh, because that could help for the climbing shedding, but maybe I actually want those in spades. There's such a fun back and forth. And also, oh my gosh, I love this design. I'm obviously super biased, but it's so fun. I think one element that I really like is you don't have too many games where hand-to-hand you will be in a partnership with someone and then you could be one for all, or all for one, I guess all the same. What is this, 3 Musketeers? You could be fighting each other in the next hand. Super interesting. Especially if you play Bughouse Millionaire, where you're actually sitting next to your partner. You could play a partnership game where you're sitting next to your partner, then another partnership hand where you're across from your partner, and then a hand where you're all fighting against each other. So wild. There's also enough team games in here to play, enough hands to play a full game of Through the Zoo with teams only. And even more so that you have variability. It's like you don't always have to play the same 4 team games. So there's like at least 5 or 6 to be able to freshen it up. Also, making sure part of the development was to get enough at every player count so it was always fresh. So there's enough 2-player, there's enough 3-player, there's enough 4-player individual. So a lot of those aspects went into the development. But it was so much fun working on this. Mason just did an amazing job. I'm super personally very excited about this, and I hope it gets added to, or I have some blank cards in here that players can add to. But it is so cool, and it's fun to come up with a system like that idea of like must follow, hearts are trump, ace is high, and like what it works with, and then anything in the middle that might be different for the game, like any kind of catch-ups. It's fun to have that system and have it feel robust. Like there's a lot that can like fit into this. Wow, I'm so excited. Thank you so much to Mason. This was absolutely wonderful. They are just the best. And thank you so much for watching. That is Zoo and More. It's bittersweet to be making the final video for it and getting back to our regularly scheduled programming, but it's off to another adventure of working with the manufacturer and getting it all set up and finalizing the files and getting it sent and then shipping it to y'all. And so it's one step of the journey down, but so many more. So thank you so much. It truly means the entire world. What a wonderful time. Thank you so much for the affordance to do something wacky like this. And it truly means so much. All right, catch y'all later. Bye, and happy Halloween.